Hi, my name's Shanice. I'm from UK Youth, and today we're running the Stand With Youth Reimagine Safer Communities event. Um, it's a part of our series that we've been running to discuss and bring together young people and experts from different sectors to explore and reimagine what the future holds for young people following the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've got a really interesting conversation today. Don't forget to get involved with the conversation by using the Stand With Youth hashtag on our social media platforms. Feel free to ask any questions on the Q&A function, and we'll try and go through as many questions as we can. We'll be having young artists who will be illustrating the event today, so those will be shared on our social media afterwards. And just a quick introduction into who UK Youth is. We're a leading national charity that supports young people and youth organisations across the UK to ensure that young people are equipped to thrive and empowered to contribute at every stage in their lives. So I'm just going to hand over to Mete now, who will be chairing the event.
Thank you very much, Shanice, and welcome everyone to our brilliant event today, where we're going to be exploring how young people can reimagine the world after COVID-19. As you all know, COVID-19 has exposed and amplified a lot of inequalities in our society, and we all know the impact that has had, particularly on the lives of so many young people. Well, today we're joined by a brilliant panel, as you see all the great faces on your screen. So I'm just going to go around and quickly sort of just do a quick round of introductions and explain to you how this will all work. But we're joined by, we've got Ada, we've got Jack, we've got Emanuela, and we've also got Andrea as well. Ada, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, I'm Ada. I'm 17 and I'm a member of ICSAR, which is a Slough youth group. I'm on the panel today because I've had first experience with violence, family matters wise. And I just find this quite a passionate topic, and I'm excited to hear what people want to say about it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm really excited about what you've got to say about the issues that we're going to be talking about. Emanuela, how are you? You're on mute. So.
Hi, I'm Emanuela. I'm also 17. I'm from The Mix, which is a charity that focuses on youth and anything to do with young people. It has a helpline people can call in, stuff like that. I also have family experience of the topics we're going to be talking about today, and I'm very passionate about young people and education. So I'll be interested to talk about that.
Amazing. And we've also got Jack and Andrea. So Andrea, if I come to you, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. Yes, I'm Andrea. I'm representing Focus CIC, which stands for Focus on Creating Your Ultimate Self. We shorten it down to Focus because it's a bit of a mouthful. And basically, our aims are to educate and empower young people about the benefits and importance of good physical and mental health. And that is born out of my own experience of being diagnosed with mental health illness. And prior to me becoming the founder of Focus CIC, I was a school teacher, a secondary school teacher. So my passion for working with young people has been with me for the last 20 odd years, and I'm a mother as well. So I'm very passionate about the topic we're talking about today.
Thank you so much, and we're very happy to have you among us. And finally, we've got Jack as well. Jack, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Well, thanks, Mete. Yes, hello everyone. I'm Jack Rowlands. I'm a Chief Inspector in the Metropolitan Police, but at the moment seconded over to the VRU. I've been in the police for about 17 years, but for the last 10 I've been really focused on diversion and helping young people that come into contact with police. I run a couple of diversion programs in the Met, one called Divert, which helps young people that come into police custody find employment, education, training, and also oversee Divert Youth and Engage that do the same. But no, I'm really here to listen to what people's concerns are, but also try and add some solutions to helping that as well.
Amazing, thank you, Jack. And for those of you who don't know what the VRU is, that's the Violence Reduction Unit, which is set up by the Mayor of London, aiming to sort of reduce serious youth violence in the UK. Just by way of introduction for myself, My name is Mete. I'm the CEO of My Life, My Say. We work quite closely with UK Youth for a number of years now. Our aim is to get young people engaged in politics. And I think it's been really inspiring to see how much young people over the past couple of years have really started to step up to the plate and make sure that their voices have been heard. I also want to take this moment to remember and to pay tribute to George Floyd and to his family and loved ones. I think the Black Lives Matter movement has inspired so many of us across the world, and we've seen, young people really at the forefront of the protest, peacefully protesting, making sure that we're calling an end to racial injustice around the world. And we're really proud as My Life, My Say to also be working with UK Youth, who's just launched their new campaign, which is hashtag Young and Black, really trying to promote young and Black voices and to get them to really share their experiences and stories about what it is to be a young and Black person being brought up in Britain. So please do make sure you follow UK Youth socials around that. There's a lot of videos being circulated. Ada's done an amazing video for us last week, just this week actually, and we'll be encouraging you to send us similar sort of videos. We want to make sure that this conversation is not just us here in this room. We want to make sure that we're involved in the conversation on social media as well. The hashtag for this event is hashtag Stand With Youth. So please do, and it's at UK Youth if I haven't got it wrong. So make sure that you engage with the conversation on social media. So the topic has already been introduced. It's about, how can we really sort of like reimagine society, and particularly looking at the safer community aspect of this conversation. So I believe before we do start, there is a Mentimeter which will be introduced, which will be like a poll. Shimis, have I got that right? Yeah, so you should start to see it on your screen. And this is essentially, Shimis, do you want to talk it through? Denise, do we have you?
Hello. Sorry, had some issues unmuting myself. So this was a question we went out to youth organisations and young people to ask on how safe do young people feel within their community. So we asked youth workers to sort of discuss this with the young people, and people have voted. So 1 is highly unsafe, and then 10 is completely safe. And from the answers we've gotten, 6.3 is the common out of all the answers we've gotten back.
Interesting. Thank you very much for sharing that. I just wanted to grab maybe a couple of people's thoughts on that. Jack, what's your thoughts on the results of how safe young people feel the community is for them?
Yeah, it's just looking at that now, it's quite variable and quite interesting. I'm looking at like the people that feel completely unsafe. That for me would always trouble me a lot, not just as a police officer but as a person. But also on the variable side, the fact that there seems to be very few people that feel completely safe. So for me, I think 6.3. Yeah, for me, I would want that to be higher for sure. And I wonder how that correlates with certain areas of London as well.
Yeah, very, very interesting thoughts about that. Ada, I want to come to you. As a young person, how safe do you think your community is for young people? And what's your thoughts about the results of it being 6.3?
I think it really shows, especially it not being higher than 6.3, and it coming from a youth perspective of it shows that even from a young age, you're able to tell whether you feel safe or not. And you're always made to believe, that you're growing up to be safe. And seeing that result shows how, even though we get told a certain thing, it doesn't always correlate that when it gets put into a chart.
Yeah.
And in regards to our community, I think Slough becoming more safer now, I guess, in a way, than it was. But yeah.
That's definitely good to hear. I was brought up in for some of you who know, in a place called Hackney, and it definitely feels much more safe compared to the days when I was being sort of brought up. But notwithstanding, there are still obviously issues that we're sort of seeing. So yeah, Emanuela, and your thoughts?
I would probably have mine lower just because of the area I'm from, which I feel like certain areas have become more gentrified and have become safer, and the crime rates have gone down and everything. But areas like mine, which won't get gentrified because we're too far away from central, kind of don't get that same treatment. So for context, I'm from, if you guys know Ealing Borough, I'm from a place called Northolt, but also like in the intersection between Northolt, Greenford and Southall, so that kind of area. So for me, how safe I would feel is probably a 3 or a 4, because us in our kind of area, we don't feel very prioritized by a lot of schemes. A lot of things focus on East and Central London, in my perspective.
Thank you very much, Manuela. I think it's really important to understand that actually, whilst we see these sort of like these headline figures, these can sort of change depending on sort of where you're from, and we need to look much more deeper into that. And I'm looking forward to kind of discussing that with you all during this conversation. Andrea, what about you? What would you have sort of rated? What number would you have chosen if you were to take this?
Obviously, I'm not a young person, but going from the young people that I do work with,
Yeah.
I'll probably think it probably around that figure or lower. I wouldn't say any higher than 6.3. Yeah, because a lot of things have happened. I'm not too far away from you over in East London. So where we are, there is a lot of things that have happened over in our area. So yeah, I wouldn't say any higher than 6.3. So it just basically echoes what other people are saying. Like, it depends on what part of London, or even, is this just for London or is it outside of London? It all depends on where the audience are taken, where this was taken from. So yeah, I'll be just repeating what everybody else has said.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, I'm happy to sort of to be corrected, but I believe it's a UK-wide sort of survey that has been taken. Yeah, and Kaylee's just confirmed that as well. So that's a UK-wide sort of question that's been put out to young people. And I also know that someone has asked a question on the Q&A function as well, just to say, keep your questions coming through the Q&A function, because that's how you can ask your questions to the panelists. We will try our best to answer all of the questions. If not, we'll make sure that we write them to you as well. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to sort of be involved in that. Really, so what I want to do is I want to kind of use this opportunity now to really sort of draw upon the experiences of the young people that we have on the panel, and really understand a bit more about your story and, what it was that, from your experiences and your thoughts for the future. Emanuela, would it be okay if I come to you first?
Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, tell us, tell us a bit about your experiences. How do you feel about everything now, and, what's to come in the future? And, are you optimistic, and how do you feel about the future?
It's a bit strange because before quarantine, my school, to give you guys some context, I go to a high school and sixth form, and it's rated outstanding by Ofsted like 5-6 years ago, like a long time ago. And educationally, it definitely is. People care so much about getting grades up in inner city state schools. What they don't care about so much is the pastoral side of things. And also the exclusion rate is very, very telling. In my experience, many people get excluded each year. And in my experience, what I've noticed is a trend, which is that most of the people that get expelled tend to be Black boys. I think that to combat this, we need to do more research into neurodivergency in especially Black boys, but Black people in general, because in my family personally, I know of a lot of people that have symptoms of things like autism, but have never been diagnosed through the system, because we are more likely to be branded as aggressive and non-compliant with authority, instead of having deeper-seated issues that need to be fought. I feel a little invisible because I'm from West London. I'm from a small area. Well, it's not a small area, but it's not a known area. Like, it's not like if I said I'm from Brixton. And I feel like a lot of these schemes tend to miss us because they're like, oh, they're doing fine academically. That must mean everything's fine. But there's a huge drug problem in Northolt, which is near where I'm from. With a lot of the students that get expelled, there's a huge drug problem. and there's a lot of violence near the school. There was a shooting in front of our school at some point, and then also some girls got stabbed in the ankle outside of the chicken shop near our school like 2 years ago or something. But nothing has really been done in my eyes to help reduce that at the root of the problem.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I know some of that is obviously very sort of personal to you, so we really appreciate that. And how do you, I guess, like, you know, one final question to you is I know we're talking about safer communities, but I also know, like, looking at the bigger context around sort of like COVID, and sort of the impact that that's having on young people's life. How do you feel about everything that's happening now? Like, how do you feel like looking into the future?
I don't know, because what I want the future to be and what I think is going to be are two very different things. I'm trying to stay optimistic. I really want to go, you know, I really want to do my A-levels next year, go to uni, get out of the house. But it's just really scary times for me. My dad is in the vulnerable group. He's on dialysis. My mum's a nurse for the NHS. And my sister lives in Barcelona right now, and she's going to have to be in 2-week quarantine when she comes home. Everything is just very tumultuous. People are losing their jobs around me. A teacher of mine passed away a couple weeks ago. It's scary times, and I just hope that everything can go back to normal. It's weird being at home and not being as busy as I'm used to being.
Yeah, for sure, and I could definitely relate to that. I'm sure a lot of young people can also share concern. Just the unknown about everything that's happening and what's going to happen is obviously a big concern. Ada, can I come to you next? It'd be great to hear a bit about you and your experiences and your story and how you feel about everything now and what's going to come to the future.
So my story started in 2017. I lost my cousin who was stabbed in the local park. And that was quite huge for Slough, because Slough, it's not as violent, but it was a huge case, and it went on for months and months and months, and it was resolved. The people are in jail. And then we lost a boy who actually came to my school last year as well. So that happened last year. And that was due to a stabbing as well in the same park. So with knife crime, it's sort of like, it's not increasing, but when it does happen, it's like a huge shock for Slough. But XARTH, which is the youth group that I go to, which actually meets together as one, we do loads of like stuff with it, and we actually, like, the young people will try to go to like primary schools and secondary schools, and we try to be the ones to advocate it to like other young people on what we do. And we actually have a young boy called Abdi in XARTH as well, who also lost his brother due to knife crime, and he recently has been going to loads of schools and telling them how it's affected him personally and how they need to stop it before it's young. Because personally, how I feel is that if you don't let children know at a younger age, that's how they are more likely to go on and do it. Because when they're younger, their minds aren't as fixed, so they're much more flexible to take in new knowledge. But when they get to around, I want to say maybe 13, 14, they get that fixed mind of, okay, I'm going to be with this gang, or I'm going to roll with this group, and that's when it starts to go down. And in regards to now, we still do youth group every week on a Tuesday, and we've actually implemented over Zoom, and we've implemented more youth group activities. So we do a quiz night, we have a girl talk, we've got loads of other things running throughout the week, so we're still all in contact. And yesterday we actually baked for like Wrexham Park Hospital staff, and they came to get them today. So we're doing loads of stuff to maintain that we're still being proactive. And if anything does happen, then we will have a discussion on it and how it's affecting us. So like with the whole Black Lives Matter stuff, we spoke about that last week, and we came up with like I want to say like a little script, and it actually went out. So it's on our Instagram if anyone wants to check that out and stuff like that. So.
What's your Instagram handle?
So it's XARTH. If you just type up XARTH, which is AIK and then SAATH, everything's there.
Perfect.
Or in XARTH, it's up to you.
Thank you so much again for again sharing your story, and like our heart goes out to your family as well for the loss of your loved ones, and like really inspiring to hear everything that you're doing since to make a difference in your community and to other young people like you who may be going through similar experiences. I think you both touched on some really good points, and I think it's a big challenge that we're facing around like both in our communities, but also around you know, the unknown of what we're facing and what the future is just going to hold for our generation and for your generation, really. I just wanted to sort of like, to just really highlight the point that, you know, we've got over 100 people join us today. Great, it's amazing. And, you know, like a lot of people will be calling us from lots of different parts of the UK as well. So I'm quite conscious, obviously, where we've got Emmanuel and Ada from London. I'm also from London as well, as you can tell from my accent. And, you know, we are encouraging people from outside of London to also be involved in this conversation. So you would see the Q&A function, as I've said. Please feel free to use that as an option to ask your questions. We're going to come to that a bit later in the chat, in this conversation. And it would be good if you could maybe, as part of that, you know, include some of your experiences from your area. So wherever you're from in the UK, please experience that and please express that, because we want to make sure this is an inclusive conversation. And it's a UK-wide issue as well. You know, I think too often when we talk about safe communities, we always get sort of bogged down to London, but I think actually, you know, we all know this is a UK-wide conversation. Well, great. Thank you so much, Ada and Emanuela. I think that's really important, some of the points that you've raised. And it's really caused me to think about, you know, some important questions. And I guess I want to bring in Andrea now and maybe sort of like ask you, I know you said you work a lot with young people, and it would be really interesting to get your thoughts about what you think are the biggest concerns for the young people that you're working with. And particularly sort of, I guess, thinking in the future, around sort of like in terms of community safety, and how has the impact, you know, how has the lockdown, impacted sort of community safety in many ways?
Well, so the young people I work with, primarily we work around physical activity, and with the lockdown, so that would have involved going like to the gym and using facilities such as those. But obviously with the lockdown, that hasn't been possible. And I also work with them in terms of their mental health. And I know that a lot of the young people are experiencing a lot of issues within the home, and it's affecting their mental health, which then affects how they handle situations, in terms of like their anger management, and so on and so forth. The lockdown has quietened the community. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw a mute and it was, I thought it was mine. The lockdown has kind of quietened what has been going on in the community in terms of like criminal activities, but I can only imagine what it's going to be like when we are able to go outside and you know, become normal again. I've had young people contact me, like I say, in regards to their mental health, so I know that that is going to be a major issue in return, and not just for young people, because I work with adults as well, so I know that's going to be a major issue for the community as a whole, and how people deal with those situations, and how they, like I mentioned before, how they handle their anger, or how they express themselves could come across as, should we say, not acceptable within a community setting.
Yeah, no, thank you so much again for sharing those thoughts. And I definitely agree with you. I think at the point of mental health, it's going to have a huge impact. You know, you see, for example, you know, what's happening with schools now. You know, young people obviously going to not be returning back to school till September. You know, undoubtedly that will have an impact on their outcomes for the future, missing out on so much important sort of time being in school. I also want to kind of like bring up a statistic, and hopefully the UKU friends don't sort of panic when hearing me talk about these issues. But I've had a look at some of the issues around, like particularly with the sort of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the disproportionality of how particularly young people from ethnic minority backgrounds have been targeted, specifically from disproportionately targeted from the police during the sort of the lockdown period. And I've got this key statistic which has come out, which is that 12% of Londoners, I'm talking in the context of London obviously, are black. However, 26% of the 973 fines that have been given to black people, and 31% of people who've been arrested, again, have been black people as well. So I know it's obviously, these are like headline figures, and Jack will probably be able to sort of answer to how some of these are much more sort of complex issues. But, you know, when we often talk about, you know, why are young people out there protesting peacefully, I think it's important to remember that everything that's happening in America is not just an American issue, and it's actually very close to our hearts and very close to home where we are here today. Jack, I think we've heard a lot about some of the problems that young people are facing. You've obviously got, I'm sure lots of insight in terms of, some of the, like some of the statistics that I mentioned. And I wasn't trying to draw you out in terms of getting an answer from you in relation to that question. But what I was really interested in, particularly, and this is why I wanted to bring you in the conversation here, I'm jumping a bit too far ahead, but I think it's really important to look at this is, it'll be really good to hear from you a bit about what the purpose of the Violence Reduction Unit is, just for the purpose of the attendees, because I think, it's a different type of approach to tackling this issue. But also, how do you think, and that's part of the reason why you're part of this panel today, is how can we bring different sectors together to collaborate to really tackle this issue? It would be great to hear your thoughts on that.
No, definitely. I think first of all, from a policing perspective, certainly in London, I know you didn't want to make it a London-focused element, but I think that my colleagues have been really focused around trying to be balanced and fair with enforcement around COVID and the lockdown element. The figures you describe around the fixed penalty notices that have been issued, considering 8 million people live in London and that only 973 of those fines were given out, I think it's a really small proportion. What doesn't necessarily sort of uncover is out of that 973, 200-300 of which have been given to people from the BAME, the BAME community. I think that's sort of a wider question as to why that's happened. But I think overall, the enforcement element to our plan was the very last resort to anything around the COVID lockdown situation, which we can talk about later. But in terms of the violence reduction unit, so in essence, you've got a violence reduction unit in every major area of the UK. So you've got one in London, got one in Thames Valley, so you've got one in Lancashire. All these are funded by the Home Office and go through the Police and Crime Commissioner. And really the Violence Reduction Unit is there to start really tackling the root causes of violence and crime, and really going into the early intervention side. So when we're talking early intervention, we're talking really from age zero upwards. And for us, it's about having that paradigm shift from dealing with things when problems have already arisen to going into that real primary prevention phase of going, let's invest now, let's put in place practices at that early intervention stage, so we then don't have to deal and suffer the effects of violence in our communities later on. And a major part of that, Mehmet, is what you just described as collaboration with communities, collaboration with organisations and public as well. And I think, Mete, what you described around the VRU is that it takes everyone. It takes police officers, it takes the public, it takes organisations to work completely collaboratively around that. And I think, yes, it always comes down to funding. Personally, my background is around early intervention, and we all have a part to play in trying to lobby government and decision makers to say, look, invest at the earliest stage now. It may not be that in your tenure you will see a return in that investment, but let's have a bipartisan attempt at investing now so that in a generation's time, as a society, we can celebrate the fact that we've intervened in the earliest possible point. I think for me, policing has a part to play in that, but it's not the part to play. And being a police officer and being part of the Metropolitan Police, we have a bad habit of coming in and going, right, you've got the Met Police involved, right, what can we do to get involved and take over? Actually, it's a real part around stepping back, letting communities and organisations find solutions, and for us to help facilitate that. But really, overall, that's what the VRU's mission is, and you should have a VRU in every major area of the UK.
I love that, Jack. I think, the point that you ended on about the fact that, in order to tackle this issue, it's actually a multi-layered approach, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach, or just policing, for example. And I think, you hit the nail on the head, the fact that, you know, it's a part of a wider collective effort. And I think too often, you know, there's a lot of maybe many ways sort of like unfair sort of responsibility placed on the police just to sort of solve this issue, when actually it's a real community effort that is required to really, you know, like our parents, our teachers, our, you know, businesses, our everything. It's a really community effort to be able to tackle this issue. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head. And I think it's great to hear of the work that you're doing with the Violence Reduction Unit, because I know that's quite a significant change from historic approaches to tackling this issue. Emanuela, Ada, I guess, Ada, if I can come to you actually, I want to come to you a bit about sort of just understanding a bit about the barriers that, you know, young people face right now in terms of feeling safe, and like a real sense of belonging to the communities. What sort of barriers do you think young people face?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so like if you were to say, like, do you feel like, for example, like where you're from, do you really feel like you're part of the community there, and, you know, has it declined, has it got better, or do you feel like you're very disconnected, for example? What is, like, you know, we've heard, for example, some of the points Emanuela made about gentrification, for example. Like, do you think things are getting worse in your community, and like why do you think they're getting worse, or why do you think they're getting better?
I think Slough is really, really diverse. So we've got loads of different cultures, communities. And so I think over time, we have gotten so much better. Like, we've now got more Caribbean food stores, African food stores, and they'll be like right next to each other. So it'll be like, and normally like it wouldn't be that case, or you'd have like Indian and Pakistani food right next to each other. And we'll try to run like XR is just so diverse. So we have every culture you can imagine in there already, every different religion, and we start from there. So we ensure that we all know about all the different religions and the different cultures that we have, and we break that barrier down there. Because Slough, when XR first started 21 years ago, it was between the Pakistanis and the Sikhs and the issues that they had. But over time, even that's now gone away. And yeah, I don't really think we face much barriers being in the youth, being younger, because we learn about it more than we did. And like my school that I went to, the Church of England school, so we had to do RE as a compulsory GCSE. So you sort of get forced to learn about other different cultures, but you find it beneficial for you as well. So
education is really, really important. Yeah, definitely. I guess, Emmanuel, I want to come to you and Andrea as well. I guess I'll start with you, Emmanuel. I mean, we heard a lot about Jack speaking about, you know, the approach to how we create more safer communities. And I was specifically wondering sort of the role of young people that can play in that. And, you know, what role do you think young people can play in terms of like sort of co-designing or working together with those people in positions of power? How can they do that? And do you think that's the way forward?
I definitely think that's the way forward, but I think the first step before we even think about that is building trust, because I feel like there is sometimes a lack of trust between young people and authority figures because of things that have happened in the past that people don't feel like have been solved necessarily, or people just feel like the root problems of things haven't been solved. So I'll give you an example. Like, we think, for example, a lot of people I talk to think that unconscious bias testing before hiring police officers should be a thing, but people shouldn't know they're being tested on unconscious bias because that makes them conscious about their bias. They should be told it's a different kind of test, and then do the test and then tackle that before any police officer actually gets hired, and then you have to deal with that problem. I think it's about training. Like I said, one of the things I'm really focusing on is detecting neurodivergency in people of color in the BAME community, because sometimes somebody who might look suspicious to a police officer may actually suffer from autism, may actually have autism or have any sort of mental illness. But if you're BAME, you're less likely to be diagnosed, you're less likely to be assumed to have that. You're like, usually the assumptions are the worst, and it's not a conscious thing a lot of the time. So I also think things like stop and search, things like appearance-based policies, I understand why they're in place. They work a lot of the time, but they make people not trust the police, you know. And I'm including myself in this, if the police is in the shop, I'll probably go to the other shop because I don't feel comfortable. I'm a young person. I look the way I look. Maybe I take a long time deciding what kind of food I want. I don't want anyone to think I'm stealing anything. That's my mindset. So I would go to another shop, but that's not because of anything that I'm going to do wrong. It's just because I take a long time deciding on crisps. So I think after building trust, then schools and education is the easiest way to reach young people. Everyone is forced to go to school. And then from that, it's kind of it's kind of like recruiting more diverse people to become police officers and then have more diverse policing in turn. So in an area like mine, depending on the sub area, so Southall was mainly South Asian community. It's nicknamed like Little India. So if we actually had Indian and South Asian police officers, people may feel more at ease. And same with different communities, people with similar backgrounds of the people they're actually policing. So people feel more trust towards those authority figures. I've waffled a bit, but I hope you could get what I was saying.
You're dropping, these are gold lines that you're dropping onto the chat, so carry on. Yeah. I'll come back to you. We've got a couple more minutes left before we go to the questions from people. Just to remind you all, we've got more than 100 people from all different parts of the UK who's joined us. Brilliant attendance, given the fact that it's a 3 o'clock event as well, and I know a lot of you have got things to be doing. Please be part of the conversation on social media. Again, UK Youth's Twitter handle is @UKYouth. And if you would also like to tweet about this event as well, please, it's hashtag Stand With Youth as well. So please be part of the conversation. Andrea, I want to quickly come to you before we go to the questions on that's coming from the attendees. What do you think are the biggest barriers? And I guess really to pick up on this last point, I mean, obviously you work a lot with young people. How do you think we can kind of create this partnership between, like those in positions of power and young people to really co-create solutions to how we create safe communities?
I truly believe in like young people having a voice. So whenever we run any projects or programs, I have an outline of what I want to do, but ultimately it's down to what the young people want to do, because I feel like they're going to come along to something, then they need to have that voice. I know we tried to run something in our borough, and it was for young people to to do with Parliament and so on and so forth. And because of restrictions and the things that were happening in Waltham Forest, they weren't able to do what they wanted to do. And it's like, come on, this is where the barrier comes now, because you're now putting a ceiling on how far they can go with what they want to do with their voice. And they're basically being dictated to. And as you can hear from these two young ladies here, their voices are so powerful. So I think it starts from, having young people sit on panels like this, having young people's at meetings that involve them and the wider community, and seeing how can we make the community safer for them. Does it, instead of just putting things out there, what do the young people want? I know it's going to start off to be hard, but in the long run, hopefully that will make a big difference. Also, the stereotyping of what a criminal or what a person that's going to do something out of the ordinary looks like. I know for myself, I have a son, and he's had to change the way that he even dresses because of, oh, if I wear a hoodie, mum, then I'm more likely to be stopped. So it's really addressing, and Manuela said it perfectly, so it's really hard to follow on from what she said, but like some of the suggestions that she mentioned, I feel will work really well.
Yeah, and I think that's the brilliant thing about having this event here today, because I feel like it's a very sort of complex issue, and I think too often people try to sort of simplify it and look for very quick results. And as Jack said and Manuela said, there's so many different ways in which we can approach this issue. So I think that's the great thing about the fact that UK put this event here today, and the fact that they obviously put in young people to sort of to lead the conversation. I definitely agree with you that they have to sort of be part of the conversation going forward, really. We're at the next.
Can I just add one more thing to add to that as well? Sorry, I know Jack mentioned about funding, but also funding for like community interest companies like myself, or just voluntary organisations that are on the ground, actually see and work with the young people that are really being affected by what we're talking about today. You know, we love what we do, but things do cost, and for us to really engage with young people and do, you know, things that are worthwhile with them, it does cost money. So we do need funding. I think that's another issue that needs to be faced. Yes, there's thousands of pounds out there, but the organisations that really could do with it and can really use it and be worthwhile in what they're doing and be really productive and powerful are not getting it.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that as well, I think, you know, too often, like when we're trying to solve these issues as well, sometimes the organisations that you're speaking on behalf of, Andrea, I think are the ones who are best placed to do it, because it goes back to Emanuela's point about trust and who the community trusts. And, you know, I remember actually talking with the Mayor of London about this as well, who specifically said that point about sometimes it's best not to have the, you know, like let's say City Hall working with, you know, the community directly, but it's better to do it through an organisation that the community trusts, because there are obviously barriers between those bigger, larger institutions and the people, partly because of the trust elements that Emanuela has obviously mentioned. Right, so we're at the next stage of our event. Really exciting part to be, and this is the bit that I love most, because obviously we're able to engage with the views of our sort of participants. We've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to get them all through. So please do keep the questions coming. It's on the Q&A function. It's below on your screen. Again, if you have any questions that you'd also like to ask via social media, you know, use the hashtag #StandWithYouth and tag me. So I've got a couple quick fire questions. I've got Mark Bundle, who's asked Jack. Jack, you mentioned early intervention. Just very quickly, briefly, if you want to just quickly tell us what early intervention means, please.
So in essence, early intervention is intervening at a stage before something has even happened. So a good example of what true early intervention is if you have a particular, say you have a vulnerable family, you have a parent that has alcohol addiction issues or is struggling from a mental health point of view, how can we support parent and child to attach? How can we promote that nurturing environment so that we can heal and support that family, so that in essence, we then prevent any further risk associations with attachment being separated, so that young person then may not feel attached to their parent going forward. There may be some underlying issues around drug abuse, etc., and domestic violence. Domestic violence, we haven't spoken about that yet. Mm-hmm. Huge issue. How can we intervene at a point where we can say to mum and dad, perhaps, you know, what you're doing in terms of the arguments you're having, or perhaps the mum is being abused. What can we do to intervene at the earliest stage so that it then doesn't recycle and doesn't transfer that trauma onto that child? Because if we've got traumatized people, we've got people that are going to be traumatized out in the community, that are going to be either potentially victims or perpetrators of violence. And for us, it's about intervening as a society at the very earliest point so that that doesn't happen further down the line. And I think sometimes, sorry, I know you wanted a prompt answer. I think sometimes the word early intervention can get banded around, and we use early intervention when the problem has completely and utterly spun out of control already and we put an intervention in place. No, early intervention is about investing in something before it's even happened.
I think I have something to say to that in response.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a delicate balance between intervening and doing a good thing and overstepping. And I think that if you can, the best thing to do, especially if it's of like two parents who may be immigrants or from a different culture, is get somebody who speaks their language, not their language in terms of whatever language they speak, in terms of like somebody who understands the cultural nuances of things, because it can seem patronizing or like you're being targeted if it comes from the wrong voice. I also think that it's about giving the child, I'm a big believer in an artistic outlet to prevent the child from falling into their parents' footsteps, because through art you can say anything, there are no rules, and I think that a lot of kids from that kind of background often get shut out of artistic channels and venues. And I think it's important to give them that outside of school, give them something outside of school that could be an escape for them.
Listen, definitely. Thank you very much.
Mete, can I just say I completely agree with what Emanuela's just said there, and just echoing her points. I think, you know, across the boundaries around statutory provision, if a particular family isn't letting you into their house, it isn't because they're necessarily denying you access into the house to do a home visit. It's because culturally they're not used to the state intervening and supporting at that stage. So it's about recognising the fact that there's a cultural difference there. But yeah, no, I just wanted to agree completely with what Emanuela was saying there.
Yeah, no, thank you both for your contributions. So going through the questions, Ada, and I guess maybe to the first panelists, I can ask this question. So Joe asks us, the young people I work with live in very rural communities, which present a real challenge for them to reach out to others to gain support, or just organise for social action. Do you have any suggestions from the work that you're doing in terms of how they can with others to gain support?
Sorry, I couldn't hear it. What was the question?
Yeah, so we've got Joe who's asking us, the young people I work with live in very rural communities, sort of towns outside of London, which presents a real challenge to reach out to others to gain support, just all for social action. So do you have any suggestions? So like what activities, I guess, are you doing in your community that maybe that they can then do to kind of engage with others around the community?
To engage with other people within the community?
Yeah, other people
Okay.
in the community, or like key stakeholders like the police or anyone, yeah, but mainly other people in the community to get young people to do more social action.
Within the community. I think it's always having that one person within those different agencies that you know you can trust. Once again, I think it just goes back to that trust and building that trust. So I think it needs to start there. So it could either be from a young person directly, like getting the young people to maybe write to the police or to write to other agencies if they feel comfortable in doing so. It could go from there. You could look up different like qualifications they can complete in order to do other things. Like we had to do our level 2 food and safety one in order to bake beforehand. It's just things like that. Like it's just fun things that you know they would want to get involved in, but you always need to ensure that the young people are the ones to decide on what they want to do. You never put it out there, so you can never be like, okay, so Ada, you're going to write to the police. Emanuela, you're going to complete this qualification so that you can bake tomorrow. It can never be like that because they won't want to do it. It has to sort of be like a shared agreement. You have to come across and be like, okay, guys, so I have this, this, and this, and that. Which one would you want to do? Because then they're much more open into, oh, okay, I have these different types of, what am I trying to say? I have these different opportunities and these different things, and they can really make a difference within my community. And I know, because at the end of the day, you have that feeling inside of you, like, oh my God, I've done that for myself. Not only have you done that for yourself, but it's had an impact on someone else. It could even be right into the local care homes, because elderly people at this time feel so alone because they can't see families. So just right into them. Yeah.
So genuine engagement is what I'm taking away from what you're saying. So actually sincerely meaning it and making sure that young people are leaving those conversations. Right. Great. I've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to get a question each for each of you, if that's okay. So maybe I could start with you, Andrea. Someone said from the Yellow Bricks Road projects, it would be good to know how safe young people can feel in the digital space. So obviously we're living in a very, I guess, like a new normal or a new type of world now where, you know, this is how events happen and a lot of things are online. How can we ensure that young people feel more safe in the digital space?
In what space, sorry?
In the digital, so like online.
Oh, in the digital space. Yeah. Good question. Just, gosh, how can we make it? Just having something for them to do, like what Ada mentioned, you know, that her group already is providing different activities for them to take part in. Like, for example, you're having a meeting via Zoom. And I don't know if this is what they meant by feeling safe, but like having password protected, and only those people that are in that group having that password, so that you know that it's not a free for all. So it's not like something like what we're doing now. Anybody can sign up to it. You know, you have to be within that particular click for them to have access to that. Have someone there that they can always have contact with, and that they can have that non-judgmental conversation with. And if they are having issues, maybe if it's not via Zoom, but I know that the new thing, not new, but I've just learned about it, Voxer. So it doesn't involve like in exchanging any contact details. I think you have to put it in to sign up, but in terms of you can have like a walkie-talkie kind of conversations. So I feel like sometimes, obviously as an adult and working with a young person that you may not know, you're, especially online, you feel like you're a bit restricted. And so in order for, you know, the safeguarding issues to be covered, you need to look at what types of software that you can use to still communicate with the young person, but at the same time, keep both of you safe. You know, and just being there for them and just having as many avenues. I know for myself, as I mentioned earlier, the gyms are not open, but what I have done is rather than do things online, I've now purchased equipment that we can go out, and they say that we can have like it's only 1 to 5, but it's 5 more people than I could have had 2 weeks ago. You know, and it gets them outside, it gets us having that face-to-face interaction. And so I think slowly but surely now we're able to move away from the digital space and trying to see how we can, you know, use the spaces that we have outside now.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Andrea. I guess just to plug UK Youth as well. I believe that UK Youth has shared some guidance on how to sort of to be more safe online, particularly for other youth organisations or those who are looking to meet people as well. I may be wrong, but I'm sure they definitely did do that. So do make sure that you are checking out their socials and their website, because that is a conversation I've had with them before. Manuel, I want to come to you and then to Jack. So I just want to come to you. I guess, you know, we're talking a lot about, I guess, maybe the negatives, the barriers, and be better, etc. But I want to look at, you know, what we're going through this time and really think about. Someone's asked this question: is what do you think the positives from this time? And how can we learn from them and sort of take that learning into the future? You're on mute again, so you just have to unmute yourself.
I think that this time has given everyone a lot of time to reflect, because especially for me, and if you're young in general, your life moves like really, really fast. You're always thinking about something or the other. I have to do this, I have to do that. And you don't have time to think about yourself. Like, what are the things I want to improve on? Or what is something I've always wanted to learn how to do, but I've never had the time? Or what's a show I've always wanted to watch, but I've never had the time? So it's given me time to work more on my songwriting. It's given me time to talk to people I haven't talked to in a long time on the phone, all of those things. And I think it's given us all time to appreciate the everyday things that we have taken for granted.
Well, yeah, definitely, 100%. And I could definitely sort of relate to that. Jack, I guess I want to come to you next. You've got quite a few questions sort of being thrown at you. I want to try to pick one that is, you know, probably most constructive in a way that you're going to be able to sort of get the most out of things. So Ahmed Ibrahim has asked us, Jack, what are you drawing from this secondment with the Violence Reduction Unit, and how is this changing the direction and culture at the Met?
That's a really good question, and it's my own priority whilst being at the VRU. So I'm the only police officer based at the VRU being a very diverse team from different backgrounds. What I've set out to do is really push the benefits of prevention and diversion within the Met Police. So since I've been in post, we've now got a prevention and diversion lead in each BCU in each area of London, and also in each specialist department. And I'm coordinating that group of people to help recognise and connect to organisations that want to help young people in order to divert them and give them a nudge away from their lifestyle. So those diversion leads are making contact with in the region of 400 to 500 organisations that I've mapped across the whole of London. And the whole idea is to really change that culture of, look, enforcement is one element, one tactic that we can use in the police. However, and I've seen it countless times, prevention and diversion, when it's done right, when you're working collaboratively with others, works really, really well. And the big thing that I'm now trying to work on, as well as those diversion leads, is connecting them to good people and to programs that we run in the Met, like Divert and Divert Youth. But the next thing that I'm working on that's really exciting is creating a violence reduction champions network in the police. So police officers and police staff across the Met, we've all got our own experiences of policing London, and we're all affected by it in different ways. There's a lot of police officers out there that care deeply around what's going on in London at the moment. And a lot of them, for instance, we've got colleagues that work in parenting support. We've got officers and staff that work in football coaching and helping young people. So I'm going to join all those people together, upwards of 200, 300, 400 officers and staff, connect them as to one organisation, one network, to say, look, not only can you have that safe conversation around wanting to help people within the Met, these are the organisations that can help. These are the leaders in the police that can help enable you to do that as well. So for me, in answer to the question, I really want that groundswell of support and that cultural change. And whilst I'm at the VRU, I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
That's great, Jack. And I think, it's really great to, as we've already said, that you've got that approach to how we can solve this issue. And hopefully, I'm sure you'll be in touch with UK Youth around how sort of you can work closer together around that as they engage with young people around the country. Just to confirm, as what I said earlier, that the UK Youth does have a digital guidance for other youth organisations and young people looking to connect. And I believe they will send that to everyone afterwards. I believe that's come to the end of my time for speaking. Thank you so much. We haven't finished exactly yet, so don't start disconnecting. I'm just going to bring back Shanice to the call. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to the panelists for being a brilliant panel and for dropping gems tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mete, and thank you to everyone on the panel. I think we've had some really, really great, rich conversations around how we can ensure that young people are building trusting relationships to feel safer in their communities. And I think some of the key points that have been coming out is really ensuring that there are genuine engagement opportunities for young people. So ensuring that you're involving them in the conversations, you're asking them to lead on what they want to see in their communities to feel safer. So I think that was some really great conversation. We're just going to launch a quick poll for some event feedback. And I think also if you want to continue this conversation, don't forget to tag us on social media and hashtag Stand With Youth. But thank you so much again for all of our panelists and everyone who attended. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.